Okay. Anybody else with prayer requests? Okay. Patsy had chemo treatments again, didn't she? Yeah. Yeah. Like last Thursday or something. Jim and I talked a couple times last week. He calls me with jokes. So he's telling me about that too as well. Okay. All right. Anyone else with any other requests? I've got a friend having cancer surgery tomorrow. A friend of mine, Dathan, is having cancer surgery tomorrow, so you pray for him that surgery go well. Okay. All right, Marlon, we lead some prayer. We did have some kids saved in Bible school. Since you mentioned that in the prayer request. Yeah, there was kids saved in Bible school, and I'm not sure. I mean, some of them were kids. Some of them were kids that have raised their hands for salvation before, and then some of them were like first time they'd ever been in church. And there were some that we know that there was one little girl in my class that she had never been in church in her life till last week, and then on Friday night she got saved. She raised her hand for salvation. At that age, you're not sure, but if their heart's tender towards God and they want to trust Christ as their Savior, so some people say, well, no, you're not supposed to talk to kids about Jesus. Yeah, they are. You are. Jesus said, when the disciples wanted to push kids away from Jesus, wanted to keep them from him, he pulled them to him. He said, humble yourself like a little child. Okay? So, okay, that's where we're at with that. Okay, vacation hello, sir. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to skip the lesson for the kids that we normally have. Come in here and tell you the lesson for the kids, but Jonathan was back there, so he knows the lesson that we have for the kids, and the rest of you don't have children back there back in the class. So the lesson tonight for the kids was Pharaoh's hardened his heart. Okay, when Moses came to him to let my people go, he said, Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey His voice?" In Exodus chapter 5, God said, "I'll show you who I am." Okay, to Pharaoh, and that's when plagues started coming. The first one, Aaron's rod turned to a serpent, ate the snakes that the magicians had. Then the water turned to blood, and then the frogs came. Okay, Titus chapter 3. I won't get into this one. Titus chapter 3. We'll read the first couple of verses, but I want you to keep your Bibles open. We'll skip around this chapter a little bit. If you have questions or comments, feel free to ask your questions or pose your comments, okay? Titus chapter 3. Because tonight's lesson is something that most Christians never learn in their lifetime. We have freedoms and rights in America, and we think it's our job to voice our opinion on everything, okay? I've listened to the news a lot while I'm driving, to the point where I'm agitated a lot of times. I just got to turn it off. Even sports news gets real political and stuff, and I want to get to this one lesson tonight. Okay, one text I want to get to. Titus, Paul's writing to Titus, a young preacher. Okay, so we went through in chapter 1. We told the qualifications of a pastor and different things. In chapter 2, we went through aged men, aged women, younger men, younger women. We went through all that a couple weeks ago before Bible school. Chapter 3, verse 1. He says this: "But put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be raised to every good work, to speak evil of no man, to be no brawlers, but gentle, showing all meekness unto all men. For ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful and hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of God, our Savior, toward men appeared, not by works of righteousness which we have done, but according to his mercy, he saved us by washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Ghost. Stop reading right there. Okay. I want to talk to you tonight about civil obedience and civil disobedience. Okay. If I'm reading this right, if you just take this scripture as it is written down, God has written this to us. Put the mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, and to be ready to have a good work. If I read that right, there's no reason for me to protest about anything. Now I can voice my opinion as an American. We have rights to voice our opinion, and when we should, we get a right to vote. We help to lead society one direction or another direction. Every one of us plays our role at work and our families, whatever we do. I'll use this illustration. When we were in Bible college, there was people that would protest our church. And it was a very large church. Sometimes there was 30,000 people in that church on Sunday morning. Okay, it was a huge place, and they're out right outside Chicago. And I remember one day there was protesters walking around out in front of our church with signs. They hated us with a passion. Okay, because we were against abortion. We hated gays. We didn't hate gays. We didn't hate abortion. We didn't hate doctors that committed abortion. We didn't hate the people that get abortions. We didn't hate gays. We didn't hate anybody else. But they had on their signs that we were hated everybody. They marched around outside our church. One guy, these guys were on the sidewalk right in front of the church building, and college boys were apt to voice our opinions real quick. And one of them was marching towards the crowd of protesters. He's going to take the signs and beat them with it. Okay, I mean he had that in his mind that he was going to rip the signs out of their hands. And another brother in Christ, another college boy, stopped him and pinned him kind of against the wall and said, "You can't do that. That's what they want. If you do that, then you will be on the news tonight. They will not be on the news for calling you names, and they can spit on you. They can say all kinds of stuff about you, but they would not be on the news. They'd be on the news. It'd be filmed somewhere. It'd be on, because there's reporters that came to our church every week to write bad things about our church, okay? Because they hated our church. It's liberal media, right? They hated our church, and Brother Howells got up one Sunday morning, and he said, "I have a certificate," and he called the person by name, the reporter that had not missed a Sunday in a year. They'd been there every Sunday morning so they could lie about what was said in the pulpit, okay? And he said, I got a certificate because they had missed church for a year, and they've been here every service, and I wanted them to come up front and get their certificates. Of course they wouldn't, okay? They wouldn't do it. But they weren't not going to walk. They just wanted to lie about what was happening there, right? I mean, it's really what it comes down to. Okay, just like the boy that was going to tackle the people with the protesters, okay, or whatever he was going to do, jerk the signs out of their hands and beat them with it. Okay, he hadn't learned this part yet. Okay, we're supposed to be pacifists. No, we'll get the pacifist thing in a few minutes. Okay, there were at one point there was a bunch of hippies outside the church. They were handing out joints, marijuana cigarettes. They're handing out joints and filthy literature to small children as they walked by. Okay, Brother Howell told the church family not to approach them, not to say anything, not to be mean to them, be kind to them. Okay, because they just don't know, right? He said those hippies came into his office after church on Sunday night. Like a whole bunch of them came into his office. One of them like wrapped in a blanket. You know, the hippies back in the 70s things like they were coming from Woodstock or something. And he was kind to them. Okay, because what they thought of him was not true, and what they thought of us as church members of that church, what the protesters' sign says, was not true. Okay, so. What we're supposed to do? What if the courts are wrong? What if people tell them? What if our judicial system has it wrong? Right? What if they say abortion's good, gay rights are good, pedophilia becomes legal in some states? It is now. Okay, where adults can molest children, it's not illegal in the states. Okay, let's go back to this. Be ready to every good work, okay? But speak evil of no man. Be no brawlers, but gentle, showing meekness to all men. What's the difference there? How can we speak evil of no man? Anybody get tired of the news? Anybody hate the news reporters more than you hate the person they're talking about? Okay, I mean, former President Trump was not, in my opinion of the guy, in business. I think he's put a lot of good business people out of business. Okay, I don't think he was a good. He was, I think, more like a shyster business wise. There were people that would come back and say, look, we were contractors, we worked for him, we never got paid. We had all this money and all this time invested to the point where working for him, building his buildings, that we lost our business, our homes, everything because of working for him. Okay, so I never thought of the man as somebody. Even back, I never saw the show where he'd say you're fired. I never watched any of that stuff. But as a man, I don't. There's something about the way he speaks, and I know there's people who love him. There's probably people in our congregation that love the guy. But as a person, there is the approach that he takes to life in ways, or his speech grates on me. Okay, but I like his policies. I like him as the policies as a president. The economy was going like this, a rocket ship, right? And everybody was working that wanted to work till COVID hit. Okay, then everything shut down, and okay, we almost sealed off the border, South America, southern part of America. Okay. I liked a lot of the policies, but there's something about the man's kind of grated on me. Okay, so I would not say anything bad. Okay, current president, it's a player. This is all recorded. Doesn't really matter. There's something about the guy I don't like. Okay, I can tell you all it is, and I don't want to hear anything else about his son. Okay, I don't care about his son's drug addiction and prostitutes. I don't care about the fact that he took bribes. And it's up to $30 million now. They got documented. Some people say it's up documented $50 million that his family got illegally. That blah, blah, blah. In reality, if I get these scriptures right, I shouldn't talk bad about President Biden or President Trump. If I get this right, I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. Right? I get a right to vote, and if I was with a bunch of other people, and a survey was taken, and they said, next year's election, there will be Biden is on the ticket, Trump's on the ticket, and they list like 4 other people. You know who got the most votes? The other column. Like nobody wanted anybody that was on that list that's running they didn't have everybody that's run for it. There's 16 people going in one side running. And my thought was, when they list all the people, I thought, is there somebody else? Can we find some little character? Somebody hadn't swindled somebody, hadn't swindled people, individual people, or hadn't swindled a group of people. Okay. In reality, though, I'm supposed to do what I'm told. I was brought up that way. Well, my dad he'd said to me several times, just shut up and do what you're told, right? Well, even if I didn't agree with something that was going on, do what you know you're supposed to be doing, right? Okay, you can voice your opinion at the right time. Just do what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, why? Speak evil. Verse 2 says, "Speak evil, no man." What's the difference between speaking evil and gossip? Evil speaking and gossip. You know the difference? What's gossip? You know the difference? Right. You know the difference between evil speaking and gossip? Evil speaking is it's factual. You saw it happen. You're repeating what you know to be true. Okay. That's evil, but if you're talking bad, if you're destroying someone's character, talking bad about somebody, it's still evil speaking according to scriptures. Gossip is if you don't know it's true, you just heard it, right? You heard this and you're repeating what you heard, okay? Either way, it's wrong in God's sight, right? Okay? All right. There's a big difference between disagreeing with other people and making personal attacks on them, okay? I can't stand to listen to the news that okay, if you listen to CNN, we are the evil ones. Okay, Christians are the worst people in the world, in our country. All the problems in our country came from. And I know people. I've talked to people that honestly believe this. Historically, they say there was no crime in America till we came. There was no illness in America till we brought it over from Europe. Okay, that means nobody died. They lived for hundreds of years without anybody dying, according to what they're thinking. Okay, It's not a true statement. Okay. If you listen to some people, they'll think that all the problems in the world are caused by Christians. Okay. If you listen to a lot of Christians, all the problems are caused by the rest of the world. Right? Okay. Civil obedience is not pacifism where you just let people run over you, but you know what you're supposed to do, and you know where the boundaries are, you don't cross them. Okay? It's showing a light and being different than anybody else. Okay? If you meet, I've known a lot of car salesmen that are crooked. I've had guys lie to me, and within minutes, I checked on something and said, "You lied to me." Yeah, no, I will not buy from you. Matter of fact, next time I buy a car, a couple weeks later, I bought a car. Beat the horns to drive by. Okay, hey, this is one you should have, but you lied. I ain't gonna buy. Okay, but if you find one that's honest, right, then that stands out completely different. Okay, we're supposed to punch holes in the darkness, be a light in the world. Okay, it's showing a light, being light. Abortion was made legal in 1972 or whatever. Okay, and as far as I'm concerned, scripturally speaking, John the Baptist was a babe. He leaped in his mother's womb when he heard Mary speak. When God called Jeremiah, he said, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and I ordained thee a prophet to the nations." I believe that life starts at conception. Okay, scripturally speaking. So that baby is a baby. It's not called a fetus. Okay. When one presidential candidate was running, what year was this? 96. He was running, and he talked about it. Him and his wife were on a TV show. I want to say Oprah, one of those shows, and they were talking about abortion. And his wife said the decision that any woman makes to abort her child is a very difficult decision. That's what the presidential candidate's wife said. He said it's no different than trimming your fingernails. Okay? You're cutting off a piece of tissue. That's all it is. Well, which one's right? His wife or him? Okay? Obviously, his wife was. Okay? During that same time period, it's going back, that was 1996, it was going back almost 30 years ago. During the same time period, there was a young man that was a Christian that was so agitated with abortion that he was planting bombs on abortion clinics. You don't remember this part in the news? His last name was Rudolph. I can't remember his first name. Like Andrew Rudolph or something like that. It goes back a long time, 25 years ago, whatever. Okay. He was doing completely opposite what he should have been doing. Okay, he was throwing bombs and had killed people or maimed people, doctors and nurses going to the abortion clinic. Okay, well, Brother John, was that wrong? Yeah, I think it's just as wrong. Okay, all right. Any questions on that? What's she supposed to do then? Okay, there's a program now that you can pay $16. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel were taken from Israel to Babylon, right? And remember, Daniel said, "We can't eat the king's meat." I mean, he made a statement. He said, "We can't eat what you're." They wanted these young men to eat the exact same food the king ate. Okay, let's say the king was eating lobster or shrimp or pork, and Daniel just said, "We can't. Prove us. Give us 10 days, and let us eat vegetables, and we'll show you that we'll be healthier by doing what God says for us to do than what you're giving the king to eat. We don't eat that meat." Okay. When a couple of chapters later, when everybody knows now who Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are, then a plot is schemed to make Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego look bad. Somehow Daniel's left out of this, and Nebuchadnezzar builds this tall image. Probably looks like him. Okay, they can see. Honest to goodness, I can see Trump doing this more than anybody else. An image is made to me. Obama, I could have seen him doing the same thing. An image is made to me because okay. They played music and everyone was to bow. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego couldn't. They wouldn't. And they said, we don't want to disobey you, King, but we can't worship your image. We just can't worship anybody but God. Okay? So they just stood there. They weren't throwing rocks at anybody. They weren't being mean to the king. They weren't saying anything bad to anybody. And the king really liked them because of their character level was different than anybody else, right? So the king really liked them, and the king said, "I'm going to give you another chance." And they said, "Our God is able to deliver us, but if not, okay, and if God doesn't deliver us, then we still can't bow. I mean, we'll be." If you throw us in that fire, we'll be playing tag with the angels in a few minutes anyway, so it don't really matter. Okay? If China took over the United States and we're now a communist nation, okay? Or it doesn't have to be China, it could be a lot of other some politicians in America today. They take over we've got to be a communist dictatorship nation. Okay. If they completely take over, well, there's people over in China right now that are worshiping God just like we're worshiping God. They have to do it in secret, and they're hiding. Okay, when Saddam Hussein was in charge of was running Iraq, was in charge of Iraq. There's Christians meeting there. Okay, the Christians doing business there. Now they might have been persecuted for doing it, but they were still serving God the way they're supposed to. Okay, they weren't trying to kill the king. They weren't trying to overthrow the government. Okay, now if you back up a couple hundred years to 1776, where there was a lot of Christians in America. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, the whole crew of the founding fathers, almost every one of them, except for Thomas Paine, was a Christian. Okay, Benjamin Franklin was a theist. He believed there was a God somewhere, but he wasn't sure that he believed Jesus Christ died for him personally. It wasn't so. Okay, their rebellion was not. The Revolutionary War was not. Was over taxes more than anything else, and control of the nation. Okay, it wouldn't give us a right to. We know a bunch of guys that are soldiers in the U.S. military right now, right? If they came marching down our streets today, it wouldn't give us a right to shoot at them. I don't think. And there's other Christians today. Oh yeah, we pick them off at 300 yards. I mean, yeah, and those same soldiers are boys who grew up in our church, right? That they're our friends. We went to school with them, or they're our friends, right? So it'd be like Civil War, brother against brother type thing. Okay. Okay. I think the worst thing that happened in the last 5 years, politically speaking, was January 6th, and we had church families that want to go there. Okay, and what it was they started out as a march, right? But once the Capitol was breached. Once the building was breached and they're trespassing, it gave the liberals in America who hate God with a passion, for most part of them. Most of them do. Some of them don't, but most of them do. The news media and everybody else. It gave them something to point the finger at and say that's how these people are. Okay, people were killed on that day, right? And they want to blame Christians and white supremacists, which that word's been thrown around a whole lot here lately. In the last 8 years, I think they've gone overboard with that term. Okay. If I'm reading this, Debbie, we're in Titus chapter 3. If I'm reading this right, we're not supposed to speak evil of any man, even if they're wrong. We can tell them they're wrong. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, "You're wrong about worshiping your idol." Okay. And Daniel said to the man that's over, "We can't eat that food." Right? Okay. Okay. Who's got one of the police officers was just sentenced yesterday from the George Floyd killing when George Floyd died a couple years ago. Huh? Yeah. So the last officer was just sentenced, I think, yesterday to 11 years, 5 years, 58 months. I think is what it comes out down. 58 months. Okay, and he said that man said he's a police officer. I think he was a rookie cop, hadn't been on the job a couple months, And he said, I was basically crowd control, had nothing to do with, never touched the guy, right? I was like a human pylon, like a green orange cone, keeping people away. That was basically my job as a rookie cop. That's what you're supposed to do. Okay. When that happened, and people rioted all across the country, Black Lives Matter movement, and the leaders of the Black Lives movement, they kind of call themselves socialists, but they actually capitalists, because the leaders got millions of dollars on their own. The leaders themselves could buy $1 million homes because all this money poured into them, right? So they rioted all across the country. I think it's bad. If African American people in America say that they're being treated bad or wrong, and some have been throughout history. We know the history. Southern part of the states in the '60s or whatever. We know all the marches and all that stuff. We know all that historical part. But if they say, but if you take it to the other extreme, like the Black Lives Matter organizations did, then what they've done is they've taken police out of the inner cities, right? Defund the police, and they've made life worse for the people that they said they're helping, right? For the inner city African American people, they've made it worse because the stores are shut down. I heard an interview. Well, we don't have a grocery store now. Well, it's because you burned it down, right? And no one's going to reinvest. No one's going to open a Walmart in your neighborhood again, right? Because of that, because you torched the one that was there, right? And you beat up the little guys that had the little small stores like the Buddy Bee Market or whatever type thing that in their neighborhood. They beat the guys that owned the stores, right? And burned the store, looted, took everything. Okay. What people do is they take what they think is an injustice and they profit off of it and turn it the opposite direction, right? And they're making it worse for the people they say they're helping. Okay? Okay. What are we supposed to do then? Are zombie pacifists? No. I told you about the story about the hippies coming to First Baptist Church, and they come in the preacher's office, and they had a list on this paper. They had a list of demands for the pastor. They weren't members of the church. They were a bunch of pot smoking hippies that were giving bad, dirty, filthy literature and trying to give joints and stuff to the kids that went to Sunday school. Okay, and Brother House was restraining his people from beating on those people like someone wanted to do, right? Okay. And they walked into the preacher's office, and he said there was about 30 of them, 20, 30 of them, I can't remember now. They came in his office, and they had a list of things that they were going to demand of the church, okay? And he said, and Brother House tells the story, he said, look, there's 30 of you, and there's 30,000 of us, and there's not a pacifist among us, okay? We'll be nice to you, but you can't make any demands of us, okay? We'll be kind to you. If your enemy hungers, you're supposed to feed him. If he's thirsty, you're supposed to give him drink. If you don't have any clothes, you give him a blanket, give him some clothes, right? And he said, but there's not a pacifist among us. There have been people walk through those doors right there that were against everything. I think once I got to know them or hear them a little bit, this is years and years ago. They're against everything we believe. Didn't believe anything we believe. They want to change what we believe. No, we're not going to change what we believe. We're not going to change salvation by grace. We're not going to change that. Pacifists will say, okay, we'll change what we believe. One of the largest denominations in the country for the last 20 years has bowed down to to everyone that wants to change who they are. Okay, and they okay, well, we'll change what we believe on salvation. We'll change what we believe. And the church wants money to come in. They want to be able to reach people with the gospel, but they're not reaching anybody with the gospel because they won't preach against immorality. Okay, they're their low understandings on morality or decency, integrity, whatever it is. I talked to somebody 2 weeks ago, and they said, well, our church is pulling out of that organization. Okay, because we still believe what we always believed about the gospel and the Bible being true. We're not going to bow down to what society says, and we're not going to bow down to what our church leaders say. Our denominational leaders are from our denominational headquarters, wherever they are across the country somewhere. We're not going to bow down to what somebody else tells us to do. We're going to believe what we've always believed. The Bible's true. Salvation's by grace. Jesus died for us. Mary was a virgin. She wasn't a prostitute. Whatever. I mean, people twist all kinds of stuff, right? Jesus was not born of a Roman soldier, whatever. But pacifists will say, okay, we'll let you take whatever you want. Okay, we'll let you do whatever you want. We're just going to be who we are. Okay, we're always going to be. We're going to be the same. We're not going to change anything. Okay. What if you disagree with somebody? Pray for them. Show them something different. Okay. Don't change your doctrine. Don't be a pacifist about it. Right is right. Right and wrong is wrong. Right and wrong never change. The Bible's made that clear. And it's kind of funny. You read stuff in the Bible. I've just read through Judges, and I think, man, it's no different than today. Okay, and that was 3,500 years ago, something like that. Yeah, about 3,500 years ago, book of Joshua and Judges, in Moses' day. And God hadn't changed any. Okay? Well, but our society's changing. Yeah, our society's changing. It's gone downhill. Really bad. Okay? Government, society, movies, what people allow, what is right and wrong. But the right and wrong hadn't changed any. A pastor says, okay, we'll just float on downstream. Well, like manure in the creek, it just floats on downstream, But that's probably a bad illustration. Probably should have said it that way. Okay, then we're going to be the same who we are. We're not going to change anything, right? But that doesn't mean we don't listen. Doesn't mean we don't care, right? It just means But okay, some of those little boys are here tonight. They came Sunday night and they're here tonight. Okay. I think they like being around Jared and Rebecca and Josiah because they're different. They're not like everybody else in the neighborhood, right? I mean, they're different, and we're supposed to be that difference, right? When I was in Bible college, worked the overnight trucking company in the evening time, and there was 40 guys worked our dock. I worked on the dock at night, if I remember the numbers right. But we had about 40 guys worked there. 30 of us were preacher boys. Okay, we were different than everybody else. Okay. We were different than the other guys we worked with. The other guys we worked with, when we got off 1 o'clock in the morning, most of them went to the bars because work was over, right? 1 o'clock in the morning, the bars were open. We went to Burritoville. Get a big burrito for $2. Domestic animals wrapped up in the bun. Okay, taco shop. Anyway. Okay, we were different than anybody else. And we had, and some of those guys, even our bosses, we were at I was at the dock window one day, and they, they hand out your go unload trailer number 39, whatever. Here's your list. And they had music. The bosses had music, rock music or dance music playing all the time. And they said, "How come you guys don't dance?" And two of my friends were standing there, Ricky Trazis and Paul Whitworth. And they said, "We can dance, but we just don't dance with we don't go dance with your wife or your girlfriend. We just don't go dance with them." And they said, "You can't dance." And music was playing, right? I mean, it was always piped in there when we were on the dock. And they said, y'all can't dance. And Ricky and Paul started break dancing like they were brought up on it. I mean, Ricky was from Los Angeles, so everybody did. Okay, but they started break dancing and roll around on the back, spinning up and stand up, and go back down, do all kinds of stuff. And our bosses, who just thought of us as being different. Okay, oh, okay. On Valentine's Day, I mean, the guy who cussed you, he cussed you, he cussed your mother, he cussed your grandmother. You remember that TV show Taxi? Okay, the guy had the same. He was a bigger, taller guy, but had that same tone all the time. Hateful guy, right? Valentine's Day, we all signed a card. Someone just took a big piece of cardboard. We all signed it. Happy Valentine's Day, Ron. We all signed it. And it's preacher boys. And he's a heathen, ungodly guy that talks like that guy on the taxi. And we walked up to the dock office, and so he opened that door. "What do you want?" We all started singing to him. Man, he teared up. Okay? "Hey, we love you, Ron." "Oh, yes, we do. We don't love anyone as much as you. When you're not with us, we're blue." Okay, we're singing that to him. And he teared up and shut the door. Okay? we earn the right to be different. For that company had, I think, about 45 terminals across the country at the time. Okay, the owner of the company, the one who founded the company, was a Christian, devout Christian, and he had a meeting with us, like a Christmas dinner one time. He came up for a Christmas dinner for all, we shut the world off on a Sunday night, and he made the statement that we had the highest weight per hour percentage of all their terminals. That means then more than twice as much as what some of the other terminals would. Per hour, we were moving like 3,500 pounds per hour. Where our loading and unloading and working harder and faster than anybody else. Of course, we were all 20 in our 20s we could move fast, but now it seems that take the same 40 guys back to the dock and be like, yes, they're 12 pounds an hour. Okay. And somebody that I knew that was in the union at the time, they were required to move 800 pounds an hour. And we got 3,400 pounds an hour, if I remember the numbers right. Okay. Why? So we earned the right. We earned the right to sing to them. Okay. The power went out. We all start singing, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And but John, why? Because we wouldn't say anything bad to anybody else, ever. Okay, we wouldn't do anything bad to harm anybody else. Okay, and they knew that, and they knew they could trust whatever we were saying or doing all the time. Okay, we earned that. Okay. When all of Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom was supposed to bow, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't bow to the image. And so, king, we're not mad at you. We just can't do that. We cannot bow. Okay. Nebuchadnezzar, when they threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, he said, "Did we cast 3 men in the fire?" And they said, "Yeah," because their hands were tied, their feet were tied, and they were thrown in the fire, right? And he said, "Lo, I see 4 men, and the 4th is like unto the Son of God." How would he have known what Jesus looked like if he did one in his mind a resemblance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? When Nebuchadnezzar, when the people who hated Daniel was promoted above everybody. When the people who hated Daniel went to the king and they lied, they said all the king's captains have come up with this law that no one can pray or ask petition for anybody except for the king for 30 days. Well, Daniel, he knew the law, but he still went and prayed every day. So they came back to the king and said, Daniel's praying, and he's not supposed to. It's against the law to pray. Okay? And there's some places in America it's going to be against the law to pray before long. But if Daniel's praying, it's against the law to pray. The king was hurt because he loved Daniel, because Daniel was different than everybody. He never met anybody like him. And the law, breaking that law means Daniel's going to be thrown in the den of lions, right? So they threw Daniel down in the den of lions, and Daniel slept all night, and the king couldn't sleep. He was up all night. So in the morning, Nebuchadnezzar came to the mouth. They rolled the stone away. Daniel was down there with the lions. They said, Nebuchadnezzar said, "Daniel, is thy God whom thou servest continually able to deliver thee?" And Daniel yelled back, "Oh, king, live forever." He had his testimony could outweigh anything. He would not say anything bad about the king, right? That's a stupid idea, making that law. He wouldn't even say it. He just did what he was supposed to do all the time. Does that make sense? There's a difference between we had a president whose main job was civil disobedience and raising a stink in the streets of Chicago. Became a senator, became a president, right? That's what he was. That's what he did for a living, right? I mean, he had a law degree, whatever, but his main job was civil disobedience. We're supposed to have civil obedience, doing the right thing all the time. Not pacifists, though you can run over us, okay? Well, Brother John, does that mean you can let people break in your house? No, you lock your doors. And keep your lock guns away from the kids, whatever. I mean, you protect your family. It's not being a pacifist. It's just saying, I'm not going to speak bad about that guy. I'm not going to do it, okay? remember when PR was teaching Sunday school about 5 years ago, this idea hit him. And he taught it on a Sunday morning. He said, see if you can go a week without saying anything bad about somebody else. You couldn't make it till Monday night. At a basketball game, someone stood beside him and said something about the referee. He said, I can't answer that. Right? I mean, his illustration is, because he's coaching at the time, he said, I can't say anything about that. Right? Because he just taught on that. Just see if he can go for a week without saying something bad about somebody else. Could we? Okay? Now, I mentioned Trump and Biden and character flaws or whatever. But I had no animosity towards either one of the guys. I thought that I would try. Okay. I like Jim Justice. Anybody like Jim Justice? Raise your hand. Not sure. Okay. I like it. I think he's funny. I like the guy. Okay. He spoke at Carly's high school graduation. Right. I like the guy. In business, I sell furniture. Part of my business. Part of what I do. And when he bought the Greenbrier, I was working over that way a lot. Still work over there in Lewisburg and stuff. But I was driving right by the Greenbrier once a month, going to Monterey, Virginia, bank I sold to. So I was driving by there all the time. And I told a friend of mine that worked in Southern West Virginia that knows a bunch of coal companies and comes out with the area that he's from, knows New Justice before politics, right? And I said, I'm calling the Greenbrier for business because they have real fancy stuff that was embroidered and I mean everything, whether it's the napkins or whatever. I could sell all that stuff. And my friend said, don't. I said, why? He said, you might not get paid, it might put you out of business. Because the way they operate means, they sell you $100,000 worth of stuff. You can't pay your vendors. You can't buy anything else. You can't pay your vendors off that money. So but I like the guy, but I won't say anything bad about him. But don't want to say anything. But if something inside me says, okay, then I wouldn't deal business with him if it was with that idea from my friend saying these guys went under because they did work, right? Just like Trump with his building some of the buildings he built. Some of the contractors went under because they did work for him, and they come back and say, well, I'll pay you, I know I owe you $6 million, but I'll pay you, if you'll take, 30 cents on the dollar, I'll pay you off right now. Well, you had more than that in materials, but at least you can pay your material supplier off, right? So this, okay. So then you learn not to say anything bad or respond in a bad way. What did Jesus say when he was bound by Pilate? What did he say? When everyone's saying crucify him, what did Jesus say? Huh? That's right. He said that to God. Forgive them, God, Father, they don't know what they do. That's true. He did say that part. But how did he respond to Pharaoh? Pilate. When Pilate's people were beating him, how did he respond? Well, when Pilate was questioning him, he didn't say anything. Right? He stood there and took it. He didn't say anything back. Until Pilate said, if you knew who I was, I have power to release you and let you, or to have you killed. And finally Jesus said, you'd have no power at all if it wasn't given to you from my Father. And Pilate's wife came up whispering and said, don't do anything to that guy. Right? But Pilate gave in to the crowd. Right? Okay. How did Jesus respond? He responded the same way. So someone goes off on you at work tomorrow or in the neighborhood. Okay? Be nice to them. Okay? You defend people, defend other people, whatever, but you don't have to defend yourself. You just say, okay, you'll see. Right? I'll be where I'm supposed to be. Okay? Without saying anything bad about anybody else. More comments, questions? Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for loving us. Help us be the Christians we ought to be. Help us be Christ-like, to love people we ought to be. It doesn't say that we'll be known because we're louder than anybody else. You said we'd be known by our love for people, towards each other. Help us love people where we ought to be the Christians we ought to be in every area. In Jesus' name we ask you. Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight.